Hey, it's Brendan here and welcome back to Gear Headz TV. Once again, you're on Show Us Your Rig and we're lucky enough to be joined today by the Teskey brothers' very own Gough. Liam, good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Before we get stuck into some of this gear, you've got a tour coming up with Orchestra Victoria. That must be very exciting.
That is very exciting.
Fantastic. Okay, now let's get stuck into this. First things first. Now, we talk about a lot about gear, but what a lot of people don't realise is the amount of practice and self-care that it takes on the old vertebrae for the hands to be able to play those really fast double-stroke rollers and pariddles. Can you talk about some of the maybe moisturizing regimes that you keep, just to keep you, supple and...
Yeah, I like to rub linseed oil into my triceps and stay hydrated, obviously, with a sponsorship from Barocca.
I can see here you've got the wireless drumsticks. Have you always played the wireless drumsticks?
I started out on the Lin drumsticks that actually had the wires, but then I fast realised that it was far better to not have wires attached because you could actually move around.
Now I noticed you've got the medium speed sticks. A lot of progressive rock drummers will generally opt for the fast sticks. Did you always gravitate to the medium or did you start on the slow?
I started on the slow and then quickly moved my way up to the fast sticks, but found I was getting some friction burns on my hand, so I went back to the medium speed sticks.
Now we can see this beautiful kit in front of us. We've got a gorgeous pink sparkle kit. Now I'm going to guess this is a 1830s Ludwig Telecaster?
As far as we can tell, it is from 1830s, yes, and it is a Telecaster.
Oh, gorgeous. And you've kept this all original pickups?
Original hand-weld pickups from the 1830s.
We love the fact that you've kept the original pickups in these because obviously, in the 80s, a lot of musicians and session players had succumbed to the pressures of evolving their sounds, and we've seen them install EMG pickups into their drum kits. Drummers like Steve Gadsden obviously really popularised that with his work in Genesis. So I mean, it's really amazing to see this all original 30s Ludwig kit.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, moving on to the cymbals here. Now, I see you've got the three cymbal setup. It's very popular. Musicians like James Hendrix often used a very similar style to this. Can we talk about, are these tin or carbon fibre? What sort of cymbals are we?
These are actually the plastic ones. They're painted to look like metal, but I prefer that sound. It's more of a splat, sort of flap, like hitting a wet frisbee.
It's a gorgeous sound. All through the early 60s and 70s, you can hear them on such Stackstown recordings, and it's such a beautiful sound. And so back onto this kit, I noticed you've got the cocktail size.
But yeah, you're right. I like to play standing up, so it's an important part of my sound.
And the performance, drummers like John Bottom obviously really popularised this with his work in the Beatles, and it's great to see that sort of taking off again today. If we could just go through the kit though, is that 3-inch tom, 37-inch snare, 73-inch floor toms, and is that a 100-inch bass?
It's actually 102-inch. I've just upgraded from the 100 to the 102. It's just that little bit more low end, a little bit more resonance. Which, for front of house guys, it makes all the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I see you've got the triple kick pedal here too. Yeah, is that used a lot in Teskey Brothers songs?
No, it's just for looks.
Beautiful, and original shells as well. Are these the original balsa wood construction, or?
No, this is the model where they actually use the 10mm laminated borosilicate glass. So it's they're actually really delicate, but they give that really sharp, harsh high end that I like to get from drums.
Beautiful, and quite often a thing overlooked in drumming, particularly on large stages, is the feedback. A gorgeous feedback that can really pump through the monitors, and yeah, it sounds like these shells can really help with that high end and trigger a lot of that on-stage feedback.
That's it, and us at the Teskey Brothers, we like to pride ourselves on getting some really good feedback on our feedback.
Gorgeous. Okay, so moving on to the outboard gear. This is our favourite part here. A young musician in the 70s, James Hendrix, once talked about his tone, and the most important part of that was the gear. If you're listening to James Hendrix, obviously you're associating that with his vintage Les Paul, his pedals, and what capacitors he was using, obviously all vintage spec and very important to that tone. So follow us as we go around the other side of the kit and we'll follow the signal chain running out. Okay, so running straight out of the rack, Tom, I can see you're going straight into a tuner, which obviously is very important on stage.
That's it, you know, being able to tune the drums quickly and efficiently with a digital tuner is a real go-to for me.
Okay, and so running out of the tuner, what would be next in your signal chain?
Coming out of that, I like to run it into a big muff, coming out, and then we're going into the toaster. You know, the trick to getting that warm tone.
After the toaster, you actually run into another kick pedal.
That's true. I like to use vintage Camco. It's all about keeping time. So what we like to do is just get a little bit, sprinkle that on there, and that actually helps to a wah-wah, which is...
Oh, wow.
You know, just for looks, basically.
Okay.
Coming out of that, to help deal with the nerves, a little bit of Dutch courage.
Okay. Are you running stereo into the Dutch courage?
Correct. That is actually meant to be stereo.
Okay. Really interesting and great for some of these beginners who are trying to get an idea of how to be versatile and how to spice up their tone.
It's all about gear, and the more gear you can afford to buy, the better, really. It's what it's all about, is gear consumption.
And so out of the Dutch courage, the cask of wine, what are we running from there?
I like to get about a 200 to 300 metre cable and then run that out just to really raise the impedance out to my amplifier.
So that'll run from this studio up to the house, around the road, sort of down to the coffee shop and back, just to really raise the impedance.
It's also got to go through the laundry, and generally I'll have like a cold cycle going. You know, that generally gets the kind of tone that I'm looking for.
So we've gone through the signal chain here. So running out from the cask wine that you've got, the vintage Malbec, a fabulous year, that one.
You have to tell me twice.
Always great to have that on stage. So running out of the vintage Malbec, are you running into a Marshall cab, or what kind of speaker cabinet are you running into?
It's actually a Fender Twin Deluxe that's been sort of rebuilt with a digital internal setting.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, I mean, it's really great to see some of these original digital Fenders from the turn of the century make a comeback on stage. I have noticed running from that Deluxe, on some shows I have seen you running into a car stereo parked on side of stage next to the soundboard.
That's it. There's nothing like listening to music on, you know, a standard stereo from, you know, a late 60s Holden, or Ford for that matter. I mean, I'm really not biased.
Yeah, I myself have used. I've got a Toyota Celica from '92 that I use the sound system from occasionally.
It's a great reference, isn't it?
Really, really warm sound. I have seen you use the VW from the '80s, the van that I'm sure Teskey fans will be very familiar with. And again, a beautiful sound coming from that, which you will then mic up and create a feedback loop and send that to front of house.
That's correct.
Well, thanks for joining us here today, Liam. It's been fascinating to get to know your setup, and thanks for showing us your rig here on Gearheads TV. So just before we sign off, you have got a tour coming up on the 21st of January with Orchestra Victoria.
That's correct, at the City Mire Music Bowl.
And you do have a new CD coming out. Your latest CD is the Teskey Brothers with Orchestra Victoria at Hammers Hall, and that's being released on December 3rd.
It's all very exciting.
So before we go, Liam, would you mind gracing us with maybe a few chords on the old skins here?
Sure thing, Brendan.
Fantastic. Once again, thanks for tuning in to Gearheads TV.